Hail, hail, the Celtics are here, and what the hell do we care now? The transfer window has quietly just about been closed ajar, not to wake anyone up before the deadline, and we just about sneaked in someone who almost missed the curfew at the end there. I think the Celtic admin was really on overtime last night, but the January window's closed. I think we all know the kind of the main dealings of it, but we're here for the Celtics Are Here flagship podcast, and I'm Quinny, and as ever, I'm joined by Meehall. Meehall, good to see you, mate. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail. I'm wearing an island top in tribute to Adam Ida.
There we go.
I said that with a requisite amount of enthusiasm.
For sure. And as ever, we're joined by Josh. Josh, good to see you, mate. Hail, hail.
Good to see you. It's good to be back discussing relatively interesting transfer window. Let's just say that.
I think interesting is probably the kindest word we've got. If there's anyone in the comment section that has a kinder word, feel free to drop it in. But I suspect the comment sections won't be full of kind words when it comes to Celtic because we knew, guys, coming into this window, we all knew Celtic fans all around the world, even Celtic fans that only watch a game or two a season, everyone knew what we needed this January window. We did need a wee bit of housekeeping done. The squad did need a wee bit, like clearing of the dead wood, as it were. But I don't think anyone's seen us signing only a winger and only a backup striker when we so badly need an extra midfielder to cover for Hatate if his injury is something, as well as left back and goalkeeper. The January window is officially closed. How do we feel about it?
Josh, you go first.
I'll say disappointed. Obviously, you're expecting. I think everyone was expecting a left back to be signed, but as the weeks kind of rumbled on, it looked less and less likely. We got off that decent start signing Nicholas Kuhn, and after that there was a bit of positivity, but it just seemed to go on, and there weren't many concrete rumours and reports. Owen Beck was really the only left back we were solidly linked with. Thiago Araújo slightly, but yeah, pretty disappointing window on the whole. If I'm honest, the probably most positive part about it was some of the outgoings. A couple of boys getting out on loan, a couple of boys going in permanent deals, some half decent business done there. But on the whole, not the greatest window.
Yeah, I mean, on that outgoings thing, right? So several of our outgoings have said how good it would have been to go away earlier, and I got the vibe that the main goal of this window was to reduce the number of people in the squad, which isn't like I'm not against that as an idea. So Mikey Johnson moved to West Brom and said, "Well, it's been in the works for a month. So if it's been in the works for a month, why didn't he leave a month ago? You could have gone out and signed somebody else. Like this is the sort of classic Celtic behaviour that we know and love. Same with Lagerbielke, who hasn't moved on at all. Same with David Turnbull. Did it really take them a month to find someone who'd pay £2 million for David Turnbull in the English Championship? Like, I feel like everybody from who I've heard spoke to about this has said, surely this isn't a difficult thing to do. And maybe if you'd have done that, you would have had more than 6 hours to find a left back. Which, I mean, I just don't believe that there isn't a left back capable of playing at least some of the time for Celtic that you couldn't have got on loan or whatever. And now we've just ended up in a situation with no left backs. And I've mentioned on this podcast a lot of times that like you don't have a transfer policy based around your best players getting injured, but like if CCB is injured, if Hatate is injured, like these are guys who get injured, have been injured this year previously. Like it seems like the sort of thing that we could have worked around. I mean, I guess in that sense we keep Lagerbielke because we need an extra centre back, but yeah, I mean, David Turnbull's gone, that's good. Mikey Johnson's gone, that's good. But beyond that, it's pretty bad. Like, I know maybe I wasn't being completely, I sound really downbeat here, but the Adam Ida thing, like 6 month loan, somebody who's the third string striker, like whatever. I mean, I'd rather Rocco Batter get those minutes, but I imagine is Adam Ida now better than Rocco Batter now, probably. So, like, he's still not going to come on before Rowe, I reckon. So, and so what? That gives it 1 week, maybe two. No, I think I can lead us all in saying Aussie, 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 oi, 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 in about 6 hours' time that they can hopefully knock South Korea out with their unique brand of really, really boring football because then we get our striker back.
That would be nice if we
Anyway,
could do that. I've just pulled up the transfer market page, because looking at the business we've now done across January and the summer, Celtic are up 11 million quid. So this this list does include stuff like Barkas and a Jetty and whatever. This is from the summer window, guys returning from loan or whatever. But these are all the incomings that we've basically seen over this window, and anyone that's watching the screen can check it out now. But you'll all know all the incomings. And then, yeah, as I say, the departures, it's, we've made 11 million quid over the summer and January. Obviously, Jota going for 29 million euros is reported on this page here, is the largest part of that. But even in this window, like we're talking about Kuhn and the Ida coming in, Turnbull going out for 2.3 million, Ideguchi coming out for the thick end of a mil, and all the other bits and pieces that went out in this window, like Kwon on loan and like Mikey Johnson, etc. We've not actually spent any money in this window. There's not actually been an investment in the squad for the second window concurrently. And, I did a video on this channel. I tried to give it a wee bit more air, a bit of life the other day, because we went through the manager's quotes, the boardroom quotes pre-window. And, I was kind of holding my last kind of emerald of faith onto their words. Like, it seemed very obvious from what they were saying. They know we need to spend money. They know we need to win the league. They know the bounty of riches that's coming at the end of the season. And I think when you see that, it just kind of boils the blood further, doesn't it? It's not like we're anywhere near strapped for cash. That it's what we had at first with Rodgers coming in. There was this kind of rumor, or with Ange a little bit as well, of a one in, one out policy. And, really there's been no really need for that this season. There's no need to wait for Turnbull to go. There's been no need to wait for someone to leave before we should be bringing people in. So with the whole, getting Phillips, getting Turnbull punted and then having like 5 minutes left to find a left back, I don't think waiting for Turnbull to go in touches an excuse at all.
Yeah, the money side of things is very frustrating, considering we're on the kind of not net spend type thing, but like we're 11 million up, whether that's pounds or euros. And obviously the figures came out a couple of months ago that we're sitting on 70 million odds in the bank, and then you've still not put any solid investment into the squad for the fans who buy season tickets, buy TV packages to watch games, pay for trips to go to away games. It's very, very frustrating. So yeah, it's not an ideal situation. I'm very interested to hear what Brendan Rodgers' comments are going to be today at his press conference about transfer window, quality signings, etc. Because he's on record, him and Callum McGregor, on record in the past saying this squad needs quality additions, and whether Ida and Niklas Kuhn are that remains to be seen. Whether Brendan thinks they're going to be that remains to be seen. So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say today.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, as I've mentioned before, this is the, I think, was it your phrase, big time Brendan, big shot Brendan, something like that?
Box office Brendan.
Box office Brendan. Yeah, this is very much, I've always considered that the bullshit Brendan, which is that anything he says on a Friday morning, just completely discount it. Like, he isn't ever, like, he'd say one thing to you in 1 minute and say the other thing the next. But I think he's not stupid enough to have hoisted himself by that particular petard. Like, if you tell people ahead of the time you're going to get quality and then you don't, it kind of looks like either you're undermined or you were talking out your ass in the first place. Like, I would say that he's, like, there's been a lot of talk about, like, is there a rift between him and the higher ups? Like, and I would say, what do you expect? Like, Quinny, do you remember when Georgios Samaras left and why Neil Lennon left the first time? Because they wouldn't, like, this is as a tale as old as Celtic. If only Brendan Rodgers had grown up as a Celtic supporter, hey, he would have known about the biscuit tin, but of course he didn't, so he doesn't. But like, yeah, it's depressing and predictable. And the idea that Brendan Rodgers somehow thought that because, like, what did I say last week? Sharon, I've changed. That was me and my brother's wife. Every time Neil Lennon said he'd learned something. But this is Peter Lowell, Mark Lowell. I know there's been a lot of stuff about the sort of Nepo baby aspect of it in terms of, like, what happens when you hire the chairman's son. Also, hiring your former manager's son to do this sort of stuff. Like, I don't 100% subscribe to that, because Mark Lowell was, we tried to sign Mark Lowell's boss, Fergus Harkin, as a sort of director of whatever, and we decided that we are a unique bird among all of football who doesn't actually need this sort of person. and therefore everything will be fine. Of course, all the teams who beat us in Europe tend to have this, but we can't possibly learn anything off them. Because Celtic, they've got to know the league, therefore have the right surname. You can tell this is how I then I don't rant so much as just take the piss. But I think this is the what's that meme? Disappointed but not surprised. That's me. If somebody could put that onto the signing, when God bless the Celtic admins who've got to post hashtag welcome either or whatever it was. Flagship got Adam, as it should have said, but they always do it in different languages. But they had an opportunity to do it in Australia, but they didn't. So there you go. That's my tip. That's my hot take.
Now, Adam Ida is the unwitting, let's say, runners-up prize that we've all been left with. And I think you can see the pictures of him arriving at the airport, and you can see in the interview and stuff he's obviously aware of the fan reaction, etc., etc. For me, I'm not a huge fan of this move for the sake of I don't think it moves the team on. I don't think it helps us in our longer term objectives, right? The positive that I hang on to this Adam Ida deal, right, is everyone wanted Shankland or a Miovski type to come in and push the kind of forwards on, right? Those guys cost a couple of £1 million. We were reported 4 to 5 for Miovski. Shankland probably wouldn't be too far dissimilar just because of how how ruthless Hearts can be in these negotiations with the Glasgow teams as it's been seen over the years. But I think Adam Ida, if he played in Scotland already, for, let's just say Hibs or Motherwell or something like that, he probably wouldn't be doing that differently to a Miovski, a Shankland, a Van Veen. He's a championship level striker. And if he was in our league scoring goals for somebody else, he would have probably been on the conversation with Miovski and Shankland, being an Irish international as well. So I kind of like the fact that we've got someone who should be too good to play in Scotland as a backup striker. Should be is the kind of optimal word, and let's see how it kind of shakes out. And I kind of like the fact that we've not spent any money on him either, because I don't think spending $4 million on Miovski would have made me happy, or spending $4 million on Shankland would have made me happy. So I don't think those moves actually move the squad on in any way. There's not much resale value. There's not much actual enhancement of the best 11, I think, for any of these names that we've seen. But we do need that little bit of buffer in attack for if Keogh goes off, if they're injured, if O's not kicking a ball. So I do think it was kind of needed. And I'm kind of happy we've not spent any money to do that. That's the only kind of silver lining I've got running through it.
It's a very, very low risk transfer, obviously, considering just the 6 months, no option to buy. I mean, listen, if the boy comes in and he does really well and he scores, has a loan spell like Craig Bellamy did, then you could look to sign him in the summer, but Norwich would probably want £6-7 million if they're going to do that. He's 6'3", so he is one of the tallest members of the squad. He's going to be, if that's correct, because I don't know any players that are actually taller than that, apart from Joe Hart.
Probably, yeah, wouldn't be far off him and Lagerbielke.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll provide a kind of different dynamic up top to what we've kind of got. He can link the play well. There's a video post of him on Twitter the other day in a game against Everton for Norwich where he scored the winning goal, and some of his link-up play was really good. He's a good part of it as well. He's got lots of experience for his age, 22, had about 4 years in senior football, over 100 appearances for Norwich, over 20 caps for Ireland, but you can understand why a lot of fans are frustrated with this. His goal record, 17, I think it is, just for Norwich alone, which is pretty poor, considering in that time they won the English Championship, and he wasn't playing ahead of a certain Timu Pukki, so that might tell you a lot. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. He knows, like you say, Quinny, I think he knows the fan reaction to his signing, which is a bit of a shame for the boy, but it doesn't mean to say that the Celtic support are going to back him, because he is going to get backed all the way regardless of what's happening now. I'll be speaking to him later on at the press conference to see what he's like, so hopefully he can give us a few more encouraging words.
Yeah. Do you know, I watched the YouTube compilation of him, as we always do with these things. I actually thought, I'm not encouraging you to go and do this because you won't be as sad as me, but if you go and watch O's compilation from when he played in Korea, that's what he looks like. He looks a very similar sort of player to O in terms of gets the ball, doesn't always hold it up, but he's sort of quite fast, like a bigger guy who likes to dribble. And I thought, this is all well and good, but he's never going to have played against a deep block of 10 men behind the ball. It's kind of is like we already have a player like that. And is he going to be better than O? Like probably, maybe, I don't know, maybe not. I've seen him play for Ireland, and hard to say because Ireland are an absolute disaster at the moment and have been for the last couple of years. Like anybody who plays them looks terrible. Like, and you know, Mikey Johnson looks like one of the best players on the team when he comes on, which really says more about Ireland. Like, with a terrible national team at the moment. But like it's in national football as well. It's very different. Like I can only base him on the games I've seen him play for Ireland, so which is not, I would say, encouraging. But on the other hand, like there are players who come into a team where they get more chances. And like I'd say his finishing's always looked kind of all right. When you watch highlights, and obviously they only show the ones where he scores, but by all accounts he can finish and he'll get a lot of chances to do that. I think what you say there, Quinny, about sort of where he was playing in terms of like we signed a guy who's 22 from Norwich. We go, oh, this is very underwhelming. But sign a guy in 6-month loan with very little risk compared to say Majowski or Shankland, who I was very, very against signing for exactly the reasons that you said. Like I'd rather have this guy. I'd rather have had this guy for now than for those guys for some. Like I wouldn't have paid $1 million for Shankland. The only reason to sign him is that he wouldn't play against us. He does seem to score against us quite a lot. So
yeah,
the old Scotland or signing to wind up the other lot. But yeah, but any player who plays for Celtic gets your support pretty much. Maybe Kenny Miller doesn't, but I think even at the time, you give him a chance. But like, I think the thing that annoys me most about it, right, and this is more of a sort of lateral thinking, abstract concept, is that they found this sort of player who's a striker. Was this player the left back not existing? Like, how impossible would it have been to have signed someone who could also fulfill a 6-month role at left back? Like, the name that was linked from PSG, Livan Kurzawa?
Yeah.
I was like, that's perfect. Guy doesn't play, signed for 6 months. It doesn't even matter if you pay him his big wages for 6 months because you're getting him for nothing. And I was like, that's perfect. Like, could definitely play in the Scottish League and is available. I'm looking at the left back now, Phillips, I know, but there's probably a massive ocean between Livan Kurzawa and a player of Nat Phillips' quality, and I was looking for something in the middle, and I just think like for 6 months, how fucking hard is this? But apparently it's incredibly hard.
I think a big part of this is sorry, Josh, but I think a big part of this as well is like, Celtic have been mugged off pretty royally in this window. The Adam Ida's probably the poster child of this because we take him on loan, and as soon as Norwich know that we're going to take him on loan, they go and get Sidney Van Hooijdonk, who again I wasn't pure buzzing about the links we had to him, but that guy's at least played Serie A. He's played Eredivisie and scored some goals like Giakoumakis has and a few other Celtic heroes over the years. So to get somebody with less pedigree and then that same team take the money that we've given them and covering his wages and whatever, and it helps finance a better player, perhaps, is a big part of the mugging off. I think of this, it kind of flavours the whole Ida situation. Sorry, Josh, on you go.
No, that's true. I was going to say a theory some people floated about is obviously we were linked last summer with Quistgarden and he didn't end up leaving Brøndby. So Brøndby, halfway through their season now, they obviously will want to sell him midway through their campaign, 17 games in. So a lot of people have been saying Ida is a stopgap for 6 months, and in the summer we'll go back in for Quistgarden because Brøndby at the 11th hour last night just signed a striker on a deal until 2028. So potentially that's something that will be revisited come the summer.
I wouldn't be holding my breath on that because if Brøndby do win the league, they're in the Champions League too, and then all of a sudden they're going to want to.
Let's hope they don't win the league then. Let's hope they don't win.
On the Copenhagen.
On Scott McKenna at Copenhagen. Come on, boys.
And the mugging off, I think, began very early this month with the whole Owen Beck thing. Like we weren't interested in him. I wanted him. I thought Beck would have been a good left back for us to get, loan option to buy. And, we weren't interested. And then we were interested. And then we're making a bid. And then Liverpool played him. And now he's back at Dundee. And it just feels like absolute amateur hour. I think they've put all the eggs in the Beck basket for left back. Mm-hmm. And as soon as that is, crumbled from beneath them, it's just been like, I've seen on the Sorare CSC last night on the Celtic Here live stream that we did. Like, it feels like it's the blind leading the blind in there, where it's like no one really knows what's going on. And they turn up every day like, oh, did we hear back from Liverpool about Beck? No, we didn't. All right, okay. We'll check tomorrow. you know. And Beck's played for Liverpool. Oh, he's back at Dundee. Oh, what do we do now? Oh, fuck, the deadline's in 12 hours. Oh, shucks. What do you know?
Here's an abstract way of thinking about it. Like, my dad was a young fella. He worked in an ice factory and all. And he used to go in, and every morning the boss would come in, and they'd all sort of be sitting in a forklift or whatever they were doing. And then when the boss fucked up, they'd just get the cards out and play cards for 9 hours. And then when he came back in, they'd clock out and go home. And that's kind of how I feel like the Celtic recruitment team goes, where they get up, they open the Daily Record and go, we're linked with Owen Beck. Has anyone spoken to Stephen McGowan? Should we check? And then they go, all right. And then they get over to, I assume, like, the carrier pigeon then lands on the window. Josh, for the younger, the Hogwarts owl lands. And then they go, what is this? This is a missive that has come from, that owl's got a Scouse accent. Oh, he seems to have played last night against Fulham in the League Cup. Oh shit, you can't play for us anymore. What else should we do? I suppose we'll see if an owl comes tomorrow. And they go back to playing cards. So yeah, this is exactly how I think it works. I've got no scientific proof for this, but prove me wrong, Celtic.
I think we have the scientific proof. The left back thing, we were talking about this in the summer. Greg Taylor probably can't move to Champions League level. We do the Champions League. Taylor, God bless his cotton socks. Love the guy. Knocks his pan in for us, but he's not a Champions League level defender. And then we come into January, and Brendan's talking about quality, and it has to be the number one position when you look at the best 11 and think, right, where could we get an addition there? So I think that we have scientific proof on that one, Mike, that, that is very little to be done.
The entire Travis transfer policy is done by carrier pigeon. You heard it here first on the Saturday podcast. But it is true, right? Like, as I say, I love Greg Taylor. I think as an inverted left back in the Scottish League, he's kind of perfect for how we play. Like, he plays like a centre midfielder, which is what we want. Brilliant. No problems with Greg Taylor at all. But like, the guy, we need someone who can go up the line. Like, that's how you free up Palmer and how you free up the left half space. Like, that's how it works. And it's just, I hope Bernabei can do that. I mean, in fairness to Bernabei, the one thing you can do is go up the line. Can't defend, can't really cross. Kind of looks like he's just in a football this morning for the first time. But the boy can run. So, and drive in a drunk state, which is also good. I can't do that. So.
The fear with Bernabei is starting him in 3 games in a row against Aberdeen away, Hibs away, St Mirren away, when he's barely played all season. I think gives a lot of people the fear. So,
wait till they didn't play.
This is a guy that couldn't get in the Champions League squad, like the 25 registered, and all of a sudden now he's the main left back for what will be 4 matches, it feels like, at least, But the thing that really got me, Mike, from the Ross County game when Bernabei started is I thought that's what we were going to see. I thought we were going to see a bit of artillery down the left, a real kind of, line-hugging fullback. Maybe we've seen a better Palma off the back of it. But Bernabei played the inverted fullback role as well against Ross County. He was like in attacking midfield positions and coming in centre with McGregor. And when I was watching this, I'm thinking, are we sticking with that? Is that how Rodgers wants to build Celtic now? Because I thought we were just doing that because it was the best way to get a tune out of Taylor, but we're now going to bring in Bernabei and get him to do the same job. Is that what we're looking for? An inverted left back?
The first 5 games of the season, Taylor didn't invert. Like, he wasn't playing like that. He was playing like a more traditional left back, and it was rubbish. So they went, well, do you know what? If this guy's good, he's our option. I say option implies there's another one. He is the only person who can do this. Therefore, we're going to have to play like that. And I thought, fine. Like, that is where he's at his best, and he's going to have to play. So it is baffling to me that you wouldn't. Like, I genuinely, this weekend, I think Scales will play there. Like, I reckon if we are not far off Liam Scales, because if you're going to play an inverted left back, Liam Scales is probably better at it than Bernabei is, and that removes everybody's why don't we just land it on the left back policy, because at least Liam Scales is tall and can sort of head it away. So yeah, I think it would not surprise me if for these 3 games Liam Scales plays there. The only thing is if Carter Vickers if Carter Vickers can play, I would be playing Liam Scales at left back, and I would be saying, Johnson, you fly up that side, you go and play up as high as you want on the right hand side, and sort of just. Do you remember how Rodgers used to do this for Tierney? Well, Tierney would play right up and Lustig would tuck in. I've been playing with this tactical football manager, so maybe it's front in my mind, and this is probably not a way to analyze real football. But I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, just because I think Scales is probably more secure on the ball. He's less likely to do something horrendously bad, and you could rebalance the team a little to the other side.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. If on the Carter Vickers, if you're playing Scales left back because he's not fit now, you're stuck with two of Nawrocki, Lagerbielke, and Welsh. And does
Welsh
that
is injured, maybe?
Well, Welsh injured. Lagerbielke and Nawrocki, and we've seen what they two do together. Rugby Park in the League Cup.
I was going to say, have we seen them together?
Yeah, Rugby Park.
We have.
We get beat 1-0. So that's
fair enough.
In fairness, I don't think that was necessarily the defender's fault. I suppose the guys who couldn't score any goals. But I think if CCV was fit, and I don't know if they're going to put Brendan up, but please God, please, can you ask if people are injured? Because today, in my job, I was speaking to two coaches on the same day. Guess what everybody asked them about? Who's injured? How long are they injured for? Could you please tell us what their injury is? This was like 50% of the press conference, and I feel like nobody ever fucking asks. And we go, is it Water injured? He's not played for like 6 weeks, but we have no idea what's wrong with him or how long he'll be out for, just that he is abstractly injured. So there you go, Josh. Tips from a veteran Jones.
And anyone else going to the press conference, stop asking daft questions about how they're feeling and what they had for lunch. We want to know who's fit and available. We want to know who's going to be the predicted team without them telling us the predicted team. So Josh will be on that, and anyone else.
Which of our players are injured and for how long, even like vaguely, because this is infuriating to me as someone who. This is 50% of the job that I hate doing in this job. Could somebody make it 10% of their job in Scotland though?
I think a big part of the transfer window as well was like the housekeeping part. Like we did have a huge bulking squad of dead weight, and Mikey Johnson's way on loan to West Brom. We thought we'd maybe get a few more loans out to Asia. Kobayashi, I don't think's actually left. Tilios went back home, as we know, for the rest of the year.
Back. Big spot on the left-hand side.
Before I get to the kind of the coup de grace of the outs, but on the Tilio thing, I think everyone's mentioned Tilio says Arzani almost in the same sentence, right? But see, when I seen Tilio going back to Melbourne, the first thing I thought was Tom Rogic, because when we first got Rogic, he was crap, and we sent him back to Central Coast, and then we took him back. Did we send him back to maybe Melbourne Victory as well? I want to say, or
no, he went to the Mariners.
Mariners.
He had previously been. So, do you want the Daniel Arzani update?
No.
Okay. Daniel Arzani is playing for Melbourne Victory at the moment. I mean, he is the most frustrating footballer in the entire world. Like, it is insane how good he is. Like, I've seen him play last year in the flesh. I've seen him play in the flesh in Sydney, admittedly against the second division team in the cup final. And he was unbelievable. He's so good. And it's like if you were on Football Manager, it'd be like 20 dribbling decisions, 0. Like, he permanently makes the wrong decision. And you're like, how is this guy? He's so frustrating because I can't think of another player who is so good at all the other stuff. And it's not like he's not trying. It's not like you think. He's like my dog, right? My dog. If you put him in the street, he'd get hit by a car and he'd get up and he would run in front of the car again because he wouldn't learn because he's a stupid dog, right? I'm not calling Daniel Arzani a stupid dog, but like he repeatedly makes the same decisions, like on a week-to-week basis that don't work, like cutting inside and shooting from miles out, or shooting when he should pass, or passing when he should shoot. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, I have to say, Melbourne Victory is my A-League team, right? Because my mate supports it. And so I have to watch him play for Melbourne Victory and being like, God, if this guy could point himself in the right direction and just periodically shoot, or when he should shoot and pass when he should pass, he'd be an absolute. He wouldn't be playing in Australia, and you can see exactly why Celtic signed him. And I worry now, to actually bring it back to something that people care about. Like, I don't understand why Marco Tilio is back playing for Melbourne City. Like, why can't? It's so lazy and obvious of us to go, let's get this guy who we brought from Australia, who we know can play in the A-League, and then put him straight back to the A-League. Like, send him to fucking Belgium or literally anywhere where it's a higher level than the A-League, because we already know he can play in the A-League. Like, unless he's going, I'm incredibly homesick, I want to move back to Melbourne, which he's not from. He's from Sydney. Like, he was just playing in Melbourne. Like, I don't understand what it gains for Marco Tilio or Celtic. Like, he doesn't gain anything. And also, the A-League season is really short and it'll finish in May, but they don't play as many games. So he'll actually only play about 12 games, I think.
I think part of the plan is he does come back to us in the summer. I think it's just a wee, to stop him going dusty, basically. But the main coup de grace, the main exit that we had this January, I beg your pardon, was the let's say I don't know what the word is, it's escaped me, but it's David Turnbull. He's went to Cardiff for £2 million when he's on 6 months of his deal. Is this a good bit of business? I think it is.
Yeah, I would agree with you. £2 million for a guy who's got 6 months left in his contract, whose attitude didn't look like he wanted to be a Celtic player, given his cameo against Ross County at the weekend. So, yeah, I think it's good business from the club to get him. But I think you said it earlier, Meehall, like, you could have got any club down south to... Who's that?
Who's in training? Iwata.
Tomo.
He's true.
Oh, yes. Well, that's actually good because...
What a boy he is.
Turnbull obviously away, and then Rio's out for 4 to 8 weeks now because he's torn a calf muscle. So
we believe that's a long translation. It's not a tear, it's a strain. So it might not be as bad.
Right, That's good.
We're crossing our fingers and praying.
If he's going to be out and still at this Asian Cup, having Tomo back in's a big positive, because for me, I think he really very much impressed previously. But back onto Turnbull, I think he was a really good servant to the club when we think about it. 3.5 years, over 100 appearances, over 50 goals, assists, £2 million. I can't remember how much we paid Motherwell for him back a couple of years ago. I think it was about 3 million, 3.5 million.
Yeah, I was going to say 3.
So we have made a loss on him, but I think we've got a £1 million or whatever worth of fun out of David Turnbull. He wasn't really gonna progress anymore. Yeah, I think it's a good deal, and he'll go to the English Championship and he'll probably do well. Cardiff, mid-table side, but I'm more interested to see how Nat Phillips does at Cardiff, not David Turnbull.
I hope I've got a sell-on clause, because I've got it on good authority that Turnbull's went there and he's a high earner. He's probably going to be getting significant minutes at Cardiff. So I don't know how likely they are to get promoted or whatever, but we've seen it with Christie, we've seen it with Armstrong, we've seen it with a bunch of guys that can go to the Championship and turn a coin. So if I wish him all the best. I think he's been a decent player, but he's just been the wrong player for Ange, and then it doesn't feel like Brendan can get a song out of him either. So maybe great guy, but wrong place at the right time, or wrong place at the wrong time, or whatever it might be.
It was very much worth your time going and looking at the Cardiff City announcement to see the comments underneath, because here's the thing, right? I've got a theory about football fans in general, which I might have brought up, that we just like new things, right? We don't actually, when in the summer when we signed 10 players, now we all know most of them were shit, but at the time we were like, oh, another one, give us another one. Announce Quan, #announce Quan. And so we basically like new shiny things, right? Even if the boring answer of we've given 7 new contracts out to CCV and Tati and O'Reilly and Boa is the actual good news. But all the Cardiff fans were like, yes, look at this guy. What a I'm not going to do it in a Welsh accent, but imagine that in a Welsh accent. Like, I'm trying to do it in the style of the bootlegger here. Well, lads, you went all right, lads. No, he's a Wrexham fan anyway. But they loved it. And then loads of people were like, in the Celtic one, when Celtic said, thanks for the memories, DC14. Loads of Cardiff fans were like, what's this guy like? And I was like, do you like long shooting? Oh, that's great. Do you like anything else? Unfortunately, he doesn't do anything else. Do you like left foots? Hasn't got one of those. Do you like running, tracking back, taking fewer than 3 touches? No. So it's funny that I did the same thing. I'm sure we'll go on to Mikey Johnson, but I did the same thing for Mikey Johnson as well. And all the West Brom fans were saying, I hope he's not like that Roger. He was rubbish. I was like, you boys would not know football if it fucking flew out the stands and bopped you on the head. But yeah, so the moral of the story here is David Turnbull was a fundamentally flawed yet occasionally useful player who, thanks for the memories, DT14, enjoy that streak with all the chippies on it in Cardiff. I've got pretty drunk in Cardiff a few times. That's my big tip. It's got a streak full of chippies.
He does have proper techers, but Turnbull, you know, he does have some
He's
talent,
like,
you know.
Would you call him the Marvin Shred of Motherwell? Like, because that boy would make a serious YouTube compilation. Like, you go back and watch his goals. Not many tap-ins. Like, the boy loves a shot.
He only scored
nobody makes a YouTube compilation of every time he took 6 touches when one would have done.
But what on the YouTube videos does Turnbull not show you how a YouTube video can make someone look really good when actually, as a player, overall, they're not very great?
I mean, Marvin Shred is that player. He has completed the YouTube video footballer.
Vacuum Bios
really well for it.
Yes.
Now banging him in, is he not? For
he's went a bit colder now, but he was in a wee bit of form. Bio did have some stats to back him up. And we've seen Shred obviously takes the Champions League at some point. I think it's a lot of the time we see like Turnbull, some of these other guys we're mentioning. It has been square pegs and round holes. You know, we've signed Turnbull because he was the exciting young Scottish midfielder in the league. You know, and it was Neil Lennon that signed him, I believe, and it was obviously like in a desperate attempt to keep the team pushing towards titles and stuff. So I don't think, again, like any of the signings we've made, it doesn't seem to be like, oh, we need a box-to-box, line-to-line midfielder. Who will we go and get? Oh, this guy, David Turnbull. You know, that's not how it's happened. It's just been, oh, there's this guy, David Turnbull, who's scoring worldies, who plays for Motherwell, that we could probably steal for like £3 million, and then John McGinnim or something. That's also not worked out that way.
Have we ever noticed that all the best Scottish players that have come out of the league are all fullbacks, and we don't have any? we this policy that you're mentioning there, Quinny, right? I agree with you that this appears to be the case, and yet somehow in this we've missed Josh Doig, Aaron Hickey, Calvin Ramsey, the kid who went to Sturmgrass, Johnson. Like, there's like off the top of my head 4 or 5. I mean, a lot of them right backs, but they're all better than Anthony Ralston. So all of these fullbacks that we haven't signed. But here's a question for you, because I know we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. You know how we don't have a 10 and we don't play with a 10? And everybody said, how good would Haksabanovic be if he was a 10? And then I think you might have suggested how good Lewis Palmer would be if he was a 10. Isn't David Turnbull just a 10?
Yeah.
Like, passes and shoots, doesn't really run. He's like a 10 from about 1990, but like, that is...
He needs to be in a 2-3-1, you know, he needs to be right in the middle of a team that's built to, you know, like do everything else. And then where's Turnbull? Yeah, like Rogic, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we haven't played with that for years. So.
On the Scottish fullbacks, we did get Greg Taylor, so there you go. Hey!
And he did. Who he did. Did he not massively half Joey Barton at some point? I think it was Joey Barton.
He got a red card for Kilmarnock against Rangers. Absolutely.
Sign him up.
I feel like the mood has lifted a little bit, guys. You know, we're having a good wee bit of fun with some of the you know, we're like the crying clowns right now, right? But what about Brendan Rodgers? How do you think he actually feels right now? I'll call myself a clown, I don't mind. But how do we think Brendan's actually sitting right now? You're going to be grilling him later on, Josh, obviously, in the press conference, as well every other Celtic fan media baying for blood right now. But how do you think do you think he's waking up raging? Or do you think he's waking up gutted, disappointed? You know, what do you think the manager's actually going through right now?
I think, well, I won't be speaking to Brendan. I've only got Adam Ida, so unfortunately, I don't know if we're on the road for Brendan soon, but yes. But I think he'll probably be disappointed, let's be honest. He's cried out for quality, at least in the press conferences and when he spoke to the media, and what's he got? On paper, Norwich's third choice striker and Nicholas Kuhn, we've not even got a left back in the door. So, yeah, I don't think he'll be too happy, but we just need to wait and see what he says. Like, I'm so interested to hear his comments, and I'm sure everyone will be. And I hope the mainstream media are there actually do grill him and don't just leave it hanging type thing and bring up his prior comments about what he said. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's the manager's fault if the money isn't invested in the squad and players aren't brought in, because we do have a recruitment team led by the son of Peter Lawwell and one of the sons of Gordon Strachan as well. So we're bound to get good players, aren't we? But I think, like we've touched on it earlier, I think we've put our eggs in a lot of baskets for other left backs so far in the window, like Owen Beck. Stuff came out about the Peterborough left back yesterday when we tried to get him at the start of the window. Harrison Burrows or something like that. Can't remember his name. And then obviously we had the Levan Kurzawa stuff. So I think we have tried to get a number of left backs throughout the window, and it'll probably frustrate him even more that we've not managed to get one, and we're sitting here in post deadline day with Bernabei as our only option. So yeah, he will be a frustrated man, but whether he shows it or not remains to be seen, and whether he brings out not excuses but comments like, oh, we tried really hard, etc., or if he goes down the other route and says, well, yeah, I'm annoyed we've not got the players we needed or wanted, but we'll just have to wait and see what he says.
Did you tweet about the Peterborough guy? I missed this. Was one of these ones that existed only when I was asleep. But did you tweet mentioning that Barry Fry is still in charge of Peterborough? Because
I think so.
Barry Fry was an old man when I was a kid.
Yeah, he's still. I think he's still yeah.
That is unbelievable. Like, if he's still going, like I imagine he's like one of the heads in a jar on
Futurama.
He's just like
Nixon, Barry Fry.
Yeah, Barry Fry. Yeah, and he's like floating around somewhere at Layer Road. There you go. I don't think Peterborough still play there. That's where they used to play. I think maybe it was Colchester. I don't know. I don't even know where Peterborough is. Somewhere in England. Full of Southerners. But yeah, on Brendan, like what I would say for me, my thing is he must have come back to Celtic thinking either it's going to be different this time or this is the only good job I can get. And I really don't believe that a guy who came in, like obviously he'd been sacked from Leicester, but like he did win the FA Cup not that long before. Like he would have got a Premier League job. If you're Crystal Palace, for example, who, Hudson's on his last legs, if you look at who they might get, Brendan Rodgers, if he was unemployed, would be pretty much top of the list, I'd say. Him and Graham Potter. That would be, or who's the kid who just, Cooper, who just got punted from Forest. Like, he'd be in the chat for West Ham, Crystal. It wouldn't be like Luton Town and the shit teams. It'd be like, Everton, like maybe not Everton because he's Liverpool manager, but that tier would be where he'd be talked about. So I just don't buy that he couldn't. Like, he must have been told, Sharon, I've changed. Like, we need, like, next time you go in for the Timothy Castagna, you'll actually get him, as opposed to, like, I know so we're in danger of reading into anything that Brendan Rodgers says here, but in the summer, he basically was like, I'm not doing the transfers. I'm not misremembering this. This is basically what happened, where he was like, they recommend players to me, blah, blah, blah. So I don't understand why people think in January this would have changed in any way, which leads me to think either our recruitment team are complete incompetents who can't find any left backs anywhere in the world, which is just unfathomably stupid. Like, they can't be that thick. Like, I know we seem to have every offspring except for the Sons of Struth running our recruitment, but like, this is how we appear to run it. Or he's gone, I just don't want this guy. We'll deal with what we have. Like, this could be the only other option, right? Is that they have suggested to him players and he's gone, no, don't need it. I'd rather work with Bernabeu and Liam Scales, in which case, imagine we don't win the league. Like, where does that leave Brendan Rodgers? This is not a good place to be in, because so when he came back, my thinking was, A, never go back, and B, like, what does he achieve? If he wins literally everything, well, he's just as good as he was before. Like, except Celtic fans might not completely hate him, but I don't know. Brendan Rodgers' ego is never something that I thought was contingent on whether people liked him or not, especially not Celtic fans, who, let's remember, he is not one of. So, and never was. Like, he's not going to be like, well, this is going to be slightly better for me when I go back to Carlo. Like, yeah, I know. Is this is this a mental take that I have here?
No,
I don't understand his reasoning here.
I'm kind of
trying to psychoanalyze a man with teeth like that. I know, but
again, I hate to bring up again, but it was a question I asked him, like, when he was announced as manager and we got into to speak to him, was like, we're all really worried that the transfer business has been good under Ange and it's going to change. And his answer was like, I said to him, they must have shown you an amazing presentation to show you that, like, things are going to be different this time, because last time, he was previously quoted in the press conference as saying, like, Last time he was here, the transfer policy was confused, and he said some other stuff like that. So I kind of gave him his words back, and I said, last time it was this. They must have told you something incredible that makes you believe that it's going to be different this time. Us as Celtic fans are worried that it's going to go back to the way it was pre-Ange. And, what have they told you to make you think that it'll be different this time? And he said, in a roundabout way, that he said there's a real clarity. There's a real clarity. There's a real system and da-da-da. And, Mark, what's the boy's name again? Lowell? Martin or Mark? Whatever.
Mark.
And he's like, Mark has got, and he's basically just put, like you've mentioned, he's not signing the players. He's put all the focus on, there's a clarity, there's a department, there's untapped markets that we can now work in. And yeah, we can't buy £20 million players, but we can buy very good players. And then he goes on later in the quote to say, a big thing he learned from his first time at Celtic to his second time is to not sign 40 players, to say no to players that are not going to be good enough. So, and again, thinking about that as we're talking, maybe there is, like you say there, they've just been handing him shite, and he's like, guys, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah. Get this away from me. Go and get an actual bloody player. Like you told me whenever you were in my villa in Mallorca. Where are those players? Untapped markets in South America and all this crap.
Real talk. The problem with our previous signing policy was that we signed too many players, right? And the great quote of the early days of analytics, the best analysts will tell you just to say no 2 times a year. Like that is a good policy, right? I don't want Celtic having a squad of 40. Like this is what we had was we're not quite Chelsea level, so we have to have 2 training sessions going on at once. But like we had far too many players. Incidentally, lost all this. Somebody wanted to take James McCarthy. Can we? I don't know if that's on the running order, but can we please just have a moment on?
Yeah.
What? And we said no. What is he like? I know he's like the greatest guy around the change room. Like he's really good at yo-yo or something that makes everybody really entertained. He's like having a friendly dog in a pub at the moment. I think it's the second footballer I've compared to a dog on this podcast. I need to stop doing that. But like, I love dogs. I wish my dog was. If I was in my own house, I'd bring my dog around. He could probably get a game of Celtic at left back. He runs around a lot. Loves the ball. Really has to get the ball up.
The McCarthy stuff was strange. Like, comes from a Greek Super League team. Like, I have no clue why they would be interested in him. And my only line of thinking that Celtic maybe turned it down is because maybe he has a clause in his contract where if he plays over a certain number of games, Celtic have to pay him more, so that when he came, if he stayed, he wasn't going to play, so they are actually saving money. But yeah, I have no clue. But I've got a story about James McCarthy. So I was on holiday after watching a Celtic game once. It's just like last summer, and obviously we're in a Celtic top. Went to a restaurant after the game, and it's just me and my dad were sitting chatting, and then another couple sitting next to us, and they see the Celtic top, and they're asking, "Oh, what do you think of the game, etc." And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's quite good." They're like, "Who's your favourite player?" Say some generic answer at the time, like Kyogo, and then they said, "What do you think of James McCarthy?" Then I was like, "Oh, he's absolutely rubbish. Don't know why he's at the club." And then the woman goes, "Oh, he's my son-in-law." And it was just, it was so embarrassing, honestly. But it's an honest opinion, isn't it? So
don't ask if you don't know the answer.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I was going to say, I mean, like if he's your son-in-law, you've got a good idea of the general answer a Celtic fan will give you. I mean, exactly. You're not walking into the dark on that one, are you?
Exactly. I know. Thank goodness. But yeah, I think it's a bit strange that he didn't go. But like you said, maybe he's the changing room pet that everyone adores, and his morale-lifting attributes can help us win the league at the end of the season.
Let's hope so. I think it's a little bit of, I was making this joke on one of my other streams and stuff about Calvin Phillips and, Cole Palmer, Tommy Doyle, some of these Man City guys. And like, I think, what was the quote? I think it was when Palmer played against Man City and he scored really well. And Pep was saying, "Oh, I told you, these guys that we've got in the squad are all, they've earned their Champions League medals and Premier League medals, even though they didn't play, because the training is so ferocious, because the talent everywhere." And anyway, I've ended up having this little meme thing going where Calvin Phillips is like a world-class training participant. Like if you're a real world-class club, you want Calvin Phillips on the training ground, kind of thing. And maybe that's just James McCarthy. Maybe he is the elite training participant that we need to keep tempo and training and to keep it mixing up.
Do you know, did he not miss a substantial amount of time with a hamstring injury, and I was like,
Yeah.
he doesn't run.
Probably.
When does he run fast enough to get a hamstring injury? Hamstring injuries only really occur if you're in like the absolute top echelons of peak physical performance, which is not a phrase that I associate with James McCarthy's Celtic career, in the politest possible way. But like, I know everyone says if you ever watch the, like they do the teammates thing where they basically just get Alistair Johnson to sort of going off, and it's pretty entertaining. And Greg Taylor, I tell you what, keep Greg Taylor around for them. He's the star of any of the Celtic TV content for the foreign fan.
Him and
But
AJ
they all
love it,
love
don't they?
James McCarthy.
Mhm.
Yeah. They're like a little sort of sort of when Skinner and Wiggum have to be like a unlikely couple in The Simpsons. I'm sure they're going to go and fight crime in New Orleans.
I love all the cartoon chat we've had in this one. But moving over some of this, guys, we had the boos ringing out post Ross County, right? And I was kind of the opinion that was a message clearly to the club, like, get your finger out, man. What's going on? We're only like the Ross County game, we won 1-0. The Dundee game, we won 3-0. But Mikey Johnson gets 2 goals off the bench in the last 11 minutes. There's another couple of games, Livy. It's been, the writing's been on the wall. We've been playing crap for a while and just about getting away with it. So I kind of took the boos, not really towards the players or really the manager, but more like the club, like everyone, like get your finger out. What the hell is going on here? We've got the biggest pot of gold on the end of the rainbow for winning the league this year, and we're acting like it's like a Rory Dyla season. Rangers are in the 2nd division and we're just cruising, and we'll just win the league because that's what's probably going to happen. Was it what I've got in the notes here as well is obviously about Palma missing the penalty and all the rest of it. But from that game, moving into the transfer deadline and moving into this weekend, we're away to Aberdeen. Is it as doom and gloom as we really think it is on the pitch? I think yes.
I would say, well, yeah, because I think partly the boos were partly down to some of the level of the performance on Saturday, come away 1-0 victors, but at the end of the day, Ross County almost took a point when Josh Sims practically ran through the whole team and squared it to Jordan White. And I tell you, the boos would have been much, much louder if he scored that. So it probably is down to partly a bit of the performance, like you say, but most, Quinny, I would agree with you in terms of like more aimed at the football club as a whole. At that point, we'd only signed Nicholas Kuhn. There hadn't even been any solid rumours of a striker or a left back coming in the door yet. So I think the fans obviously are allowed to express their views in any way they want. I don't necessarily agree with booing. But if you pay 600 quid, 700 quid for a season ticket, you're allowed to say what you like within a ground, so within reason. But yeah, it's a culmination of frustrations, probably just performance, recruitment, the level of, I would just say, things how are going at the club. What's the word you use when you keep on doing something and you think you're going to win, but you might not? When you are
going through the motions, kind of.
Yeah, just everything at the club at the minute. It's just a culmination of frustrations from the fans.
It's an autopilot.
Yeah, autopilot. Complacency. There's the word. Yeah.
That's the one.
It's so I didn't see the game because I was moving house and it was the middle of the night. It was a classic, really annoying kickoff for the Australian audience. But I've obviously watched it back, and tell you what, when you watch games back, when you know what the score is and it's a 1-0 win at home to Ross County, that is not a fun. You do it,
especially with the goal in the first 60 seconds.
yeah, which is like the worst goal they've ever scored. I'd also already seen the goal, so when you're watching it, it's like you see the goal and you're like, oh right, so that's the high point. Where do we go from here? But like, I love a counterfactual, right? But like, imagine that performance goes in, but we scored the penalty and it's a 2-0 win and there's no drama at the end and blah 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 blah. Like, that's people go, move on to the next one. The points are in the bag. They were never really in doubt. Like, and I think that is the kind of the wonder of penalties, right? Is that I noticed this, having watched a lot of the Asia Cup and the African Cup of Nations, like this morning was Iran against Syria, and it was 2 penalties, and they were one on. I think Iran won on penalties. And when you watch the highlights, you're like, if you'd just seen that, you'd go, that was a real shit game. And ours was kind of the opposite of that, where if we'd have won 2-0 without any other incident, we'd have gone 2-0, pack it up, move on. No one will remember this. It's not going to make the end of season VHS, but 3 more points in the bag. And I think that's kind of at this time of year, there's a confluence of factors with the Asia Cup, the shit pitch, the poor transfer business that add all in together. And like, obviously, fans can do whatever they want, right? If you want to boo, boo. I don't mind. I'm not a booer, really. I just think it's a bit silly. But like, yeah, I feel like totally legitimate expression of frustration. And I'm not the one paying. I'm paying 100 and whatever I'm paying. I can't remember how much it is. Actually, it's like $300 to watch Celtic TV for a year, so it's quite expensive. But to say I don't actually get to go, to get to watch it on TV in the middle of the night. But I think like we've got so accustomed to what Ange was doing, where it is like every single week is, trying to win 6-0. And I think we were just really, really lucky to get a guy like that for the time that we did. And kind of a lot of Brendan Rodgers football was like this. Like, and we remember now the unbeaten season, for example, without remembering that a lot of the games in the unbeaten season kind of 1-0s and 2-0s, where Scott Sinclair scored that goal that Scott Sinclair always scored, and it wasn't always late in. And then the year after that, and the year that he left, were actually real fucking boring a lot of the time. Like, this is Brendan Rodgers would say, well, they only had one shot against or whatever, and we never looked like losing. So that's kind of the point. But it does look really stunted. But I would think, if you asked him, he would say, well, the chance of us missing, I mean, obviously this man has never watched Celtic before, as we know, but the chance of us missing this many penalties, for example, is quite unlikely, statistically speaking. Like, to miss as many penalties as we have in this kind of thing. There's lots of stuff where it's like, it wouldn't take much. Like, we have had a level of underperformance that would be, I would say, quite unlikely to happen more often, put it that way, in terms of penalties particularly, which changes the entire game state, which means that everybody in the stadium goes, 2-0 at home to Ross County. Bit cold, shit pitch was shit, we had players missing, move on.
The Bernardo open goal was another sliding doors moment in the game after the penalties. If he puts that away, you're probably looking at a better scoreline as well.
Well, I just think of the game that we drew at home early in the season was at St Johnstone, when O'Reilly missed fucking 6 chances.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or I was actually watching because it was the anniversary of it on the Lil Zay videos, but the one where Abada scores in the last minute against is it Dundee United?
Dundee United, yeah.
United, I think.
Yep.
And you think, how many chances do we miss? And Giacomakis, that dead-eye finisher that he was, which is a complete fucking no, he wasn't. He hits the keeper from 1 yard out and stuff like that, and because we scored in the last minute, everyone goes, a pivotal moment, when actually it was a terrible performance. Or do you remember the game where Scott Brown, we conceded in the 90th minute, and then Scott Brown scored in the 91st against Hamilton just before Christmas?
Yeah.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Games like this that become the pivotal moment in the season, when actually they were terrible performances. So, I mean, part of me goes, yeah, if you paid your good money to go and watch it and you want to boo people, knock yourself out. And then part of me goes, we played 40 games in the season and some of them are going to be shit, and we won this 1-0. So there's not a complacency there. We have to say this performance was shit, we need to be better. But Brendan Rodgers will be telling them that. They know when they've played badly. I don't know, if I played cricket on Friday, and if I played badly, I know I played badly, don't boo cricket. Cricket's great. What is it about, do you think, watching something that goes on for ages and nothing much happens, that makes me accustomed to watching Celtic 1, Ross County 0? This years of being a cricket fan.
Yeah, that's a good either or. Would you rather watch the Celtic game knowing it's 1-0 with the goal in the first minute, or a game of cricket? I'd probably still stick for Celtic, I think. But that is a tough one.
I'll take that as a personal insult. I love cricket anyway. I'm talking to you and I could be watching England v India. So
I was going to say the Ross County game, some of the stuff we're chatting about now, the level of performance, the results kind of just about went our way, but maybe been knife edge. And against teams that we know are going to low block, they're going to camp in, going to give us the possession. And Ross County, to be fair to them, like we've mentioned, they did try. They attacked the centre ground. They went through the middle of the pitch on counter-attack when they could. Against Aberdeen at home, who have just bagged their manager, we're kind of walking into a little bit of the unknown, number one. And number two, at Pittodrie, that's not going to happen with Aberdeen. So it'll be a way different match. Maybe it suits us better. And maybe with all the kind of furore and anger or pressure, maybe we get a great performance out of the team. What do you think the chances of that are?
I'm quite nervous about this game, if I'm honest. Aberdeen, the players are going to have a point to prove. Celtic aren't in the greatest run of form going into it. Transfer window's just finished. Manager potentially a bit frustrated with the lack of signings. Alessandro Bernabé at left back. But these are the games sometimes where you don't expect the team to do well, where they go out and put in a performance, and we end up 3-0 up at half-time at Pittodrie. So it could easily go either way. I think, like I've said, the Dons have got a point to prove, but Celtic players will want to put in that performance and put a bit of pressure on Rangers, who have got the 3 o'clock kickoff later on in the day, and just keep on this winning run, because that's 6 games in a row now. Celtic have won, conceding only 1 goal in that. On paper, it's a pretty decent run of form. Maybe performance is not there, but like you said, Meehall, just the time of year, conditions, etc., run of games, injuries, to have 6 wins out of 6 and having going into that run, not have won 3 games in a row all season, it's pretty good. So they'll look to keep that up against Aberdeen, and hopefully see a wee debut for Adam Ida as well.
Do you think so? Here's a thought I just had there, right? I didn't know about that 6 wins in a row, but like now I think of it, it's true. But I was listening to a podcast with, Scott Cardle, Celtic supporting boxer. He was.
I think I know the name, but I wouldn't say I know him.
Anyway, he's a big Celtic fan, but he was a boxer, and he was talking about in one of his fights where he basically he was talking in the context of Tyson Fury, right? His most recent fight against Ngannou, where he's looking past Ngannou to fight Usyk, and then nearly lost to Ngannou. But I thought he won, but anyway, it's not a boxing podcast. But like, he clearly could see the next game. So like, if you imagine you're Celtic, you've gone Bucky Thistle, whatever, doesn't matter. Then we've got this Ross County at home. Their manager's crap. He thinks the whole team's crap. And then the big 2 away games, right? Big 3 away games with St Mirren. Oh no, we played St Mirren. I'm lost. Anyway, Pittodrie and Easter Road, right? And I can see how Celtic would have gone. Like, this is a block of fixtures, because all the clubs will work on blocks of fixtures, 4 in a row, 5 in a row, whatever, and gone, this is the Ross County at home is the gimme, and then we've got the other 2 ones that are difficult. And I think that, much as they would never say that they'd do it, like I could see them doing the Francis Ngannou here and just looking straight past the guy they think they'll be easily in advance of the ones that they need to be ready for. So for one, I would expect a reaction both to the crap performance and the fact that they would have potentially overlooked Ross County, who are, rubbish and about South manager. And the other thing as well is that just on what you were saying there, Josh, like you think of Pittodrie as a difficult place to go, but historically it's actually not. Like we almost always win there, usually quite easily. Like our record Pittodrie is really, really good. Like I always think this as well. Because you think, Pittodrie, difficult place to go, and actually for Celtic it very rarely is. And obviously, completely jinxed us there. And also, thanks. I know. I said we were going to beat Ross County 10-0. No, I said Bucky. What did I say? I think I literally said like 10-0 something. But I think as well, we have under Brendan Rodgers, we have played better against better teams. That's, I say, fairly uncontroversial. Like if we think on the days that we have something here, it's like Brendan Rodgers thinks that he can just coast through everybody, and when he has sort of a vague intellectual challenge, he decides that he'd be interested for a while. So I think there'll be a reaction. Like I can't see them being that pedestrian again. Like I just don't think that that's possible.
On the Pittodrie thing, right? Celtic haven't lost at Pittodrie since February 2016. And in that run since then, Celtic have only drew 2 games at Pittodrie, and both of them were in the COVID year. So that tells you how good
did
the form is.
Go to the game that we lost.
Yeah.
Who scored? I want to say Peter Pawlett.
Lee Griffiths scored in the 90th minute for Celtic when we were 2-0 down. Johnny Hayes and Simon Church scored for Aberdeen.
Simon Church. Who's Peter Pawlett? I feel like, maybe he's done the United. Anyway, sorry. My particular library of disappointing Celtic performances from the last decade pulled that name out. But yeah, like, so that's kind of confirms my point, right? Actually, our record at Pittodrie is really, really good. Like, our record against most teams is good, but it's particularly good at Pittodrie. Like, I feel like as a confessed reader of Follow, they think that Aberdeen try 10 times harder against them than they do against us. And the record of Rangers at Pittodrie would suggest that that's kind of true. Or at least Rangers do worse there than we do there. So I feel like I'm not lacking confidence, put it that way. But obviously, we will eventually lose to them. And It's that
it's
weird
kind of like us
balance,
against Kilmarnock. It feels like Kilmarnock always roll over for Rangers, and they always give us a hard time. That's what it feels anyway.
Yeah.
Hearts as well.
But do you know what I mean? Like the bad performances, when you lose or you draw, the bad performances go, well, I saw this coming. Whereas if we continue to win, which we tend to do at Pittodrie, you go, well, that was just a bad day. The office against Ross County.
That's a big kind of problem that I think is kind of flavoured a wee bit of this chat we've had with the Ross County coming into the Aberdeen game now, where it's like, I think, especially at this level of the game, like football, you can't be results over process. Like getting a positive result but playing crap, as we know, like as we've even been mentioning, you can see the writing on the wall. It doesn't take long before a performance will go against you if you've not got that process of being able to, play against all kind of manners of opponents. But I do think that Aberdeen should be a bit more favourable to us. We do have a good record on the road there. Adam Ida probably comes off the bench in this one, I would imagine. We've had the Wata pictures in training, so there might be a wee curveball. Maybe we see a Wata come off the bench at some point as well later in the game, which could be fun. I'm hoping for a victory, but looking at how motivated Aberdeen might be for this change of manager, that kind of bounce situation, they're at home. We've got a strong team, by the way. They're no mugs. I seen them when we beat them 6-0, and we were very good for that performance on the day. But Aberdeen weren't 6-0 off it. They weren't like we just took our chances.
Three of the goals came in stoppage time that day. So
exactly, yeah. So I think it'll be a wee bit tougher. And I'm probably, if I was going to end the podcast with a score prediction, I'm probably going to go with 3-1 to the Hoops.
Mm-hmm. That's fair enough. I'm going to go. I would go with 3-1 as well, Quinny. I'll go 3-0.
3-0. Get the clean sheet, Josh.
I'll go 2-0 and everyone will be upset. Everyone will go, oh,
2 goals in stoppage time, everyone will be raging.
Yeah.
And maybe the final question to end on is, will Palma be on penalties?
Well, this is an interesting point. On you go, Meehall. You go first.
I've done some research on this.
Mm-hmm.
Who's our best penalty taker of the last 15 years?
The last 15 years, Juranovic.
15. Nah, I'm going to say Lee Griffiths.
Second best is Griffiths.
Second place is Griffiths. Have we guessed the correct one yet?
No. I have referenced him in relation to Lewis Palmer before.
A golden Labrador.
Haksabanovic.
No, a golden Labrador. Same. I'd say hair color and girth.
Haksabanovic.
Blonde. That dog. Turnbull.
No. Chris Commons, the Honduran Chris Commons.
I
happily will compare Chris Commons to a dog. No, I like Labradors.
A hatchet.
Yeah, I actually like Labradors, so no. But yeah, Chris Commons is unbelievable at penalties. And actually, I avoided having a go at somebody on Twitter about this because somebody's like, say what you like about James Tavernier. He's an exceptional penalty taker. James Tavernier is not an exceptional penalty taker. He's an absolutely average penalty taker. He's actually below average in terms of the average number of penalties scored. Certainly in top divisions has gone up to about 80% now. It used to be about 74, I think, or 75, which is Tavernier. Tavernier is like a 3 and 4 man, which, that's what everybody else hits penalties at. But the only penalty taker when I did this very boring waste of an afternoon, who actually hit above Tavernier in the list was Chris Commons, who was an exceptional penalty taker.
Quality.
Again, would you describe him as a fat David Turnbull who could strike a ball but do very little else? So,
It's a shout. So on a penalty situation, the new striker Adam Ida has taken 13 in his career and he's scored all 13. So.
Ooh. Do you want a second penalty question? This is a real niche one. Do you remember the penalty that Samaras missed that could have won us the league? I guess 2011.
Yeah.
We had a player on the field who had a perfect penalty record who had literally never missed one, and had taken lots of them. So he never took a penalty for Celtic.
2011.
He was on the field when this happened, and I knew this ahead of time.
I'm guessing it's not Chris Commons. It feels like too easy an answer with what you've told us already. So it's not Commons, I'm guessing.
Commons did play that guy. I think Commons scored in that.
Griffiths? No, Griffiths 2011 is too early.
Scott Brown.
You'll never get this. It was Daniel Masterovich.
Wow.
He took penalties for Ike Athens, like Lewis Palmer did once upon a time. No, he was Irish, actually. No, he took penalties, and he never took one for Celtic, and his penalty record was insane, and he never took one for Celtic. He only scored 1 goal for us, I think, which was in a cup tie at Berwick Rangers or Brecon City. I can't remember, one of those two. Anyway, it's about a yard out. But yeah, I reckon Bernardo is going to take penalties.
Bernardo's a shout, yeah.
Has to be
I
Kyogo.
reckon technical player. Kyogo's never taken them. He must be terrible at them.
He hit the post.
He's been begging. He's been begging to take them, but do you remember when McGregor had to take the ball off him and said, "No, Hatate's on penalties, mate." And then Hatate was injured, and he went to take the ball again. And I think I don't think it was like the whole Calmac situation, but I think he get made to give the ball to Turnbull or somebody else. So wee man's itching. Wee man's itching to take them.
He's only he missed one at Rugby Park last season, so that's at the post. I think might have put it wide actually, but
that rings a bell.
Yeah. So there we go. Penalties.
I reckon Paulo Bernardo will be the man where they go, "You're quite technical. Sure, you can hit a penalty." And what I would like him to do is, like, just run up and kick it. Like, it makes me sound like a proper dar. Like, I'm sure there is logic to the stopping penalty.
Yep.
But just batter it, like, on the goal. Give yourself a chance. We know when there's 2 consecutive or current international tournaments, you watch a lot of penalties, and the stoppy penalty is far less effective, I think, than the whack it penalty. Chris Collins didn't stop many penalties. Put it that way.
I think you need to be supremely confident to do the stutter or the stop start or the little skips, the Jorginho or something. It needs to be. You need to be 10 out of 10 confident to pull that off.
I think there's like a really high there's like a particularly high number of successful penalties are left footers as well. So I'm trying to remember if Chris Cummings was left footed. I don't think he was.
It's probably a practice thing, isn't it, with the goalkeeper? You don't face that many left footers.
Yeah, I think they just face fewer of them or whatever. But apparently left footers are vastly better at penalties than right footers. So there you go.
Bernabé on them then. Put Bernabé on the pens.
Bernabé, yeah. That's the only answer. Liam Scales.
O'Reilly.
Why isn't that right? O'Reilly should take it. There you go.
There we go. So
on that note,
yeah.
On that note, guys, if anyone is going to Pittodrie, we hope you travel safe and you have a lot of fun. Will you be making it to the game, Josh?
No, I won't be. I'll be watching it from the comfort of my own home.
We're watching it from a safe distance. Love to hear that. So to anyone that's joined in the podcast that is going to the game, travel safe, have fun, and we'll catch you next week. Mike, it's been a pleasure. Josh, been a pleasure. Hail, guys.
I'll not be going to Aberdeen.
Cheers. See you next week.